Hey guys, Viva coming back here to redo a video I did a little while back about being a Templar healer in Throne and Liberty. I realized looking back that there were various key points I missed, such as going over my armor traits, and I don't believe I really touched weapon mastery that well. And as well, I didn't go over the skills and why we're using the skills that we're doing. So, in addition, the build may have changed a little bit, albeit slightly, but I couldn't help but re-go over everything and how I am approaching being a healer in this game, so let's take a look. Alright, first off, I should mention I still do not in fact have my most desired build. I'm still missing my boots, belt. I like the Tevet one, but again, that's more of a pipe dream. However, this is working for me right now. So we're going to go with the Karnix Nether Blade, and we're going to go with the Tome of Proximate Remedy. Both of these traits are going to be max health and crit hit chance and heavy attack chance. And this is because being a healer, you want to get those crit and heavy heals. In a perfect world, again, Tevin's Wand with the crit and the heavy, and the max health would be replaced with the Tevin's Wand ability to give you a cooldown speed trait. Proximate Remedy is giving us that plus 12 strength, which is helping us get to 70 easy because we're going to look at the stat points. Our main focus is being tanky and unkillable as possible so we can stay up and heal ourselves and our allies longer. The other stats include Dex, which we are dumping, and Wisdom and Perception. Wisdom currently sitting at 35 and Perception at 26. When we get the boots, the stats will move around a little bit in the belt as well. The stats will move around a little bit, but we'll still end up having about 70 strength, and the Wisdom will probably hit about 40. I know some people wonder why we're not prioritizing Wisdom as a healer, and my answer to that is that it's really just a minuscule increase. The difference in boost in healing from 30 to 70 is about 18%, and in PvP, which is what this whole build is pretty much based around, we're kind of in like a burst meta where building that last 18% will mostly go unnoticed, since if someone's about to die from not getting that last bit of HP, they'd probably end up dying regardless, as there's so much damage coming across the board. Are there going to be times where that extra little bit will save a person? Yes. But to get there, you'd have to be sacrificing your strength stat, and at that point, you're much less tanky, and you may not survive the fight yourself long enough to be there in the long run. And so this keeps you in the fight, keeps you there, and keeps you healing your allies longer. Moving over to our armor, we're going to focus on our two sets that we're working with, which is the Shot Commander set, which would be the chest and the boots when I get them, and the Ascended Guardian pants and gloves. We're going with the two-piece and the two-piece set because it gives us a bit of tankiness and a solid cooldown rate that helps us maintain ourselves and the allies through lengthy combats. Aside from the sets, we do have the Shadow Harvester mask and the Supreme Devotion cloak for even more cooldown. And seeing as how we're not going to be focusing on Wisdom as much, having all these different pieces that give you cooldown percent is really good. As far as traits for the rest of the armor goes, we're pretty much looking to get the double endurance on every piece, and then the max health, max mana on the other piece. The pants are a bit different because they give you the debuff duration, and the mask gives you the cooldown percent instead of the increased health or the mana. And then for the cloak, which is pretty much just another accessory, albeit it is in the armor, we're just going with the max health, the skill damage resistance, and the stun resistance. Moving on to the accessories, we have the Blessed Templar Choker Necklace, Bracers of the Primal King, the Sapphire Dimensional Band, Etched Alabaster Band, and we're working with the Butcher's Belt because of the damage reduction that it gives and a little bit of health, but we would prefer the Belt of Bloodlust here. And as far as the traits for all these, they're pretty much going to all across the board have max health, and then where a piece can have buff or debuff duration, it's going to take one or the other, and it's going to have the skill damage resistance where it can get it, such as right here on the belt, and I don't know if it's the bracers or the necklace that gets it, but also with the cape. That be skill damage resistance, and then everything else will just be health regen, so we're going to keep ourselves nice and healthy. Now moving on to skills, I want to start off by saying it's important to understand your skills so you're not panicking when shit hits the fan. For instance, there's usually not need to waste a burst heal on someone after taking some AoE damage, when you can just passively heal them with, like, if you see two people just a little bit hurt, you can just go ahead and hit them with the Clay Salvation. You really don't need to throw out 3 Swift Heals, your Fountain, and just end up wasting your cooldown management. For our healing spells, we're going to start with the Fountain of Life with Mana Recovery, Radius Increase, and Effect Duration. Then we're going to Clay Salvation. Clay Salvation just has the Radius Increase. And the Swift Healing has pretty much every single spec that you can have across the board. Heal transfers to heal yourself as well. Consecutive use, this lets you use it 3 times. You can use it a bit further of a distance, and the Mana Recovery to also recover mana. Next, we're going to look at our curse skills, such as Touch of Despair with an increased radius spec, and Cursed Nightmare. Cursed Nightmare, we're going to be using the Deep Sleep and the Enhanced Nightmare. These respectively make it to where they instantly fall asleep unless they're affected by a movement penalty. And Deep Sleep lets them be slept for 2 hits. Now, sleeping is important. I'm sure everyone's noticed it when we're doing our Guild v Guild fights, that we're trying to get these mass sleeps put out with Cursed Nightmare and Cosmic Haze, because when you hit a creature that is asleep, the first hit on it is a crit. And when you have Deep Sleep on it, as long as my testing remains true, then yes, both of those first hits, so long as the target is asleep, they're both crits. So this is a nice way to burst one person or a group of people whenever we get to you. Cosmic Haze, which is spreading our curses from the people that it's affecting to other people. And to do that better, we have a radius increase for this skill as well. It gives another 2 meters of possible spreading. Moving on to our buff skills, we have 4 buffs for allies and 2 self buffs. Starting with our 1 ally buff, which would be the Enchanting Time. This just increases a friendly target skill damage boost, right now 200 at level 3, for 9 seconds. And that has the Enchanting Time spec, which is what turns this into a friendly target skill damage boost, where normally it would be a debuff on an enemy. However, this is probably the lowest on the totem pole for the build. I only really am using this when I have a teammate of mine who can spin to win maybe, and I throw it on them real quick as they go in on a group of sleeping targets. Or normally, because I am a tanky healer, I'm with a bunch of other tanky people like Baz or Kiko. So this would just be a nice skill to put on them so they can try to put as much hurt out as possible. Most of our buffs are defense boosting buffs, such as Invincible Wall, which gives you a shield that absorbs all this damage, and it has the ability to go to an AoE around me, which with the targets expanded, and the skill distance is also increased, so we're able to cover a large AoE of applying shield to allies. Next, we have Blessed Barrier, which creates this, again, a field with the target's expanded spec. And in that field, all defenses across the board for the party members in there are increased. Right now, at the moment, you see it's 1960 for 6 seconds. And their healing is increased during the day by 45%. So you're pairing Blessed Barrier a lot of the times with Fountain of Life, because you can lay them both on the ground together. And this is just going to make Fountain of Life that much stronger, and it's a big difference. If I could show real quick, right here, Fountain of Life, and then you see I'm getting the 400s and the 700s, and then it goes up, just like that. So it's a big boost to heals, especially when you're frontlining tanks and you're getting pelted by so many enemies. Going back, the final ally buff that we have is just the Stalwart Bastion. No specs across it. It's just a flat damage reduction for 9 seconds for your party members in that radius. Our last 2 buffs are self buffs. This is just the Counter Barrier. This just increases our shield block chance and gives us some damage reduction and counter attack to the attacker. And the last is our Oh Shit bar, which is the Immortal Pride. It raises our shield. We get max health by 22% at this level, which is level 2. And the specs that we're going for it just makes it cost super cheap. Normally it's like 400 mana. Right now it's 48 mana. And we get health regen 200% health regen when you have that spec on. And so when you get super low, this is your O ship bar, because your health regen, especially when you have all the health regen that you're going to have from your accessories, it's going to go through the roof, and you'll be able to almost full heal yourself with just, you know, swift healing one ally is going to heal them, but it's also going to heal you a lot. And you also get these defense increase. Now, if you look at the defense increase in the specs, they increase a lot. It's 5% of your max health up to 1500, and so pretty much that's going to be 1500 every time, as long as you have a good amount of health, which we will have with the build. So this is going to increase your health or your defenses by 1500. And if you're using this around the same time that you're also using your blessed bear, you got to keep in mind that's 1500 plus this 1960 plus whatever you initially have for your tankiness, because we are a tanky build. So you're going to be pretty tanky. Next is our passive skills, in which we're using 4 wand skills and 3 sword and shield skills. For our wand skills, we got the full corruption. This increases max damage by 36, and mana regen is where we're really taking this in, because whenever a victim that has weaken dies, we get that mana regen, and we are constantly applying weaken to almost everybody, because we're using Touch of Despair constantly, which can go up to 3 enemies, and there were Cosmic Haze, and granted we're using this mostly for the nightmare spreading, but we're also doing this just over time as well whenever we can. And so we're spreading this weaken to up to several enemies at once. And so whenever any of them die, we get this mana regen. Max damage doesn't really matter that much, but this is how we always have constant mana, along with a couple other passes we'll go over in a second. We got Devotion and Emptiness. This gives you an increase in skill healing by 32% and decreases cooldown by 10% during the day. This is mostly what we're trying to use it for day. At night, it just increases your damage and decreases your cooldowns. So this is mostly our like a day perk. Noble Revival, it's just a flat skill heal percentage based off your max mana. Really good. Saint's Oath, taking skill damage has a 20% chance to increase your skill heal, healing received, amatoy healing, potion healing, and it stacks. So it's very good, especially because you're getting hit, because you're so defensive, you're getting hit by so many different things. So you're getting all those procs to have this increase in healing, and it's another thing that just keeps you going longer. Selfless Soul, granted health recovery and regen to allies via active skills, and mana regen increase as well, and the skill heal increase. Again, this stacks, and you're always giving health recovery and regen to allies. So all these different stacking things with the health regen just keeps you up longer, to where you don't really ever have to focus on yourself too hard. You can be sure that you're maintaining your allies' health and making sure that they're all good, because in the backline you have so much health regen that you're also fine just by passively healing them. So now our 3 sword and shield passives, we're going to go with Impenetrable. This just increases your defenses across the board based off how many enemies there are around you. The more enemies there are, the more defenses you get. Age of Shield increases shield damage reduction and increases defense per shield block chance. Self-explanatory. Lastly, Relentless Mind. We don't have evading. We're more of an endurance build. However, this also restores mana equal to damage block based off of defense skills, and restores health. And we do have multiple defense skills that would help us avoid some damage. So this, again, helps us stay it longer because of the health regen and because of the mana. We're not really ever going below half mana unless we're really in the thick of it and we're really having an intense fight. Next up is Weapon Mastery. Let's look at the wand first. The wand, we're going the full damage tree all the way at the end to get the Greedy Need, because this gives us the cooldown speed. With the cooldown speed here, we have a cooldown speed here. As you can see, this is just going to boost our cooldown speed even more. And so this is when we need to make those pushes. We'll switch over to the wand and we'll make sure that we're putting out as much as we need to. And with the sword talent tree, we're going all the way in the Provoke and Counter, and then we're going all the way to Collision to the Steely Physique. This will give us the best resistances, the damage reduction, the buff duration, same thing down here, damage reduction, resistances to collision. This will just keep us nice and tanky. And consumables, you want to make sure you have a nice consumable that gives you PvP bonuses. This includes hit chance, crit chance. You can have foods that give you endurance. I have like 1,000 of these because of the chest that you get from doing the story. It only gives you a little bit of defense, but I just been throwing them on throughout all encounters pretty much until I run out of them. But you also can have foods besides just your defense or your attack. You can have defense or an attack food. So like I have this meat and onion soup, or you could have the quality sweet grilled mushrooms, something like that, an attack based thing. But you can also have one of these little galaxy star things, foods, which gives you the max mana recovery. There's also one that's health and health recovery. Also in the last video, I did mention these honey rye cookies, how they recover a bunch of health recovery per second. And there's also the milk that does the mana per second. Yes, you cannot use that when you're actively in PvP, but as long as you're flagged down, which only takes it takes about 5 to 7 seconds out of combat. So when we're in these guild v guild fights, you'll get those opportunities enough where we're going to have some like breaths of air. In those instances, when you flag down, you can go ahead and eat one of these. So if you don't have a healer, your healer is coming back from dying, and you just need to give yourself a little bit of extra health, having these in your inventory, not a bad idea, because you'll just be able to chow down on them. And pretty much, you know, that's what, 500 per second for 18 seconds, 900 health really quickly. Not bad. Something else that everyone needs to prioritize is getting one of these precious Purification Stones. I have been very bad, and I've been using these abyssal aggregates to use for crafting these chests here somewhere. Yeah, these chests. Been very bad, been using them constantly. Do not do what I've done. Save them to get these precious Purification Stone. You only need one. It is a permanent item that you get, and it gives you a CC reduction, or CC purity every 2 minutes. And this can stay in your hotbar permanently. It's really so helpful. I wish I haven't spent all those abyssal aggregates, so I could have already had them. You farm them in the abyss dungeons, and it's just going to be a lifesaver, because the only other way you can get those CC reductions is if you cook the little potions down here. They're the yellow ones that also take those abyssal aggregates to cook. And dumb me cooked about 10 of them early on, 10, 15, 20 of them early on, not knowing that you need them to actually buy this thing and that it's permanent instead of these little potions. I thought it was like a one-off like thing, and I was like, wow, that's a waste. And then like week 2 came out, and I was like, oh, I'm dumb. That's very helpful. Everyone needs this. This should be like number 2 on your consumable hotbar next to your pots. You also got your mana pot. And the other thing that I have are these defense remedies, which give you a damage taken reduction that lasts for 15 seconds. Good for your big pushes. So really the 3 things in your hotbar. This, get that CC immune item that gives you every 2 minutes of CC cleansing. Your mana pot and the defense remedy. So pretty much these just go over one. Take away this food. You'll eat the food in your inventory right before the battle. As long as you have one that's 30 minutes, that's all you need for our Guild v Guild fights. And lastly, the Guardian. Lady Knight Karmache gives you a 50% shield based off your max mana and a cooldown speed of 40%. You add that 40% to all the stuff from your weapon mastery and the armor traits that you got, and you have a lot of cooldown speed, you know, as long as you're going with the same build that I'm kind of going with. And these are on 7-minute cooldowns, and the Guild v Guild fight's 20 minutes. So you can use this twice during a nice fight, so long as you remember that you have her and that you use them effectively, okay? And I'm going to end it with just a couple tips. I've been playing healers and support characters in every MMO I played since pretty much being a little tot playing EverQuest, right? And so I just want to let you know that healers in Holy Trinity games like these are like bassists in a band. When you play it perfectly, nobody cares. But if you miss for even a fraction of a second, people will notice. And I'm sure that every healer has seen this doing random dungeons with random players. Players will panic when they're near death, and they'll run away from you, and you have to feel obligated to chase them down to heal them, or they die. And if they die, you're normally the one that's being flamed. That's just what happens. The secret to when you play a healer is to remain calm and don't let other players dictate your rhythm or ruin your cooldown management. You need to understand that you're playing a game within a game, and the rules are different for you. You don't have a set rotation, And you may have to get creative with positioning so you can effectively heal any ally. And you need to know what skills and what protections to apply to allies that will most benefit them in that moment so you don't mess again with your cooldown management. And that is it. That is my Viva guide to being a Templar tanky healer in Throne and Liberty, regardless on if it's PvP or PvE. PvE is really easy at the moment. This build, you'll be perfectly safe with it, and it will be very useful in large-scale PvP. Small-scale PvP, we'll change things up a bit. We'll put some chains on, but besides that, that's the build I'm working with. If you guys have any questions, feel free to message me them in Discord or just put them in the comments of this YouTube video, and I will check them out and get back to you. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.